"Just act like you're mine for tonight," said the CEO. The single dad's reply left her speechless. The trade station hung in space like a ring of silver light. Ships from many worlds came and went every hour. Some ships were smooth and white, some were dark and shaped like stones, and some looked like flying towers. The station was called Haven Ring because it was a safe place for trade and talks. Many species met there to buy, sell, and make deals. At the center of this great station worked a woman named Lyra. She was the chief executive of Haven Ring. People said she was young for such a high role, but no one said it twice. She spoke little, listened much, and made clear choices. That was why the board trusted her. That was why the station ran well. Her office sat behind a wide glass wall that showed the stars. Lines of ships moved like slow fish in a dark sea. Inside the office, everything was neat. Screens floated in the air with numbers and maps. Soft lights glowed along the floor. This evening was important. A group of rich investors from a far system was coming for a private dinner. They were powerful traders. If they supported Haven Ring, the station would grow. If they turned away, rivals would gain strength. Lyra stood by her desk and read the report again. Her assistant spoke from a small hovering screen. "The guests value tradition," the assistant said. "They trust leaders who show strong family bonds. On their world, leaders always present themselves with partners or family." Lyra gave a small sigh. "This is a trade station, not a wedding hall." "Yes, but their culture mixes business and family. They see it as proof of loyalty." Lyra closed the report. She had built her life on work. There had been no time for love or family. She did not regret it, but tonight it was a problem. "Prepare the dinner hall," she said. "We will focus on results." The assistant hesitated. "They may read it as a weakness." Lyra did not answer. She looked out at the stars. Weakness or not, she would not fake a life she did not have. At that moment, the office lights flickered. One screen went dark, then another. Lyra frowned. "Maintenance?" A reply came quickly. "Small power shift in your sector, Chief. Sending a worker." A few minutes later, the door chimed. A man stepped in wearing a gray worker suit with a tool belt. He looked tired, but calm. His hair was slightly messy, and there was a small burn mark on his glove from past work. He gave a polite nod. "Ma'am, I'm here to fix the line." Lyra stepped aside. "Make it quick." The man opened a floor panel and checked the cables. His hands moved with care and skill. He did not rush, but he did not waste time either. "What is your name?" Lyra asked while reading another report. "Daniel, ma'am. You've worked here long?" 3 years on this station. Before that, colony repair jobs." His voice was simple and steady, not nervous, not proud, just honest. A soft beep came from his device. "Found it. Loose relay. It happens when ships dock too fast." He fixed it in minutes. The lights returned to full glow. Lyra glanced at him. "Good work." He gave a small smile. "Just doing the job." As he turned to leave, a small hologram lit up from a chip on his wrist. It showed the face of a young boy, maybe 6 years old. "Dad, you coming soon?" the boy asked. "You said we would eat together." Daniel's face softened. "Soon, kid. Finish your lesson pack. I'll bring a sweet cake." The boy grinned, and the hologram ended. Lyra had not meant to watch, but she did. "Your son?" "Yes, ma'am." "You raise him alone?" Daniel nodded once. "His mother died during the colony sickness years ago." Lyra paused. "I see." There was no sadness in his tone, only quiet truth. He was not asking for pity. Her mind turned back to the dinner. family, partner, image. A sudden idea came. It was bold and a little foolish, but it could work. "Daniel," she said. He turned back. "Ma'am?" She walked closer, speaking plainly. "I have a strange request. You can refuse?" He waited. "I have guests tonight. They respect leaders with partners. I do not have one. I need someone to stand beside me and act like my partner for a few hours." Daniel blinked. He clearly did not expect that. "You would be paid well," she added. "More than a month of your wage." He was silent for a moment. Lyra watched his face, expecting quick agreement. Instead, he asked, "What do I have to do?" "Walk with me, sit at dinner, speak politely. That is all." He fought again. "I won't lie if they ask about my life." "You don't need to lie. Just present well." He shook his head lightly. "Ma'am, if they ask if we are a real couple, I won't build a big story. I don't want trouble later." His calm answer surprised her. Most would jump at the money and say yes to anything. "You are very direct," she said. "I have a son. I keep life simple." She studied him. Honest, calm, not greedy. It might even look more real. "Will you do it?" she asked. He looked at the star view for a second, then back at her. "If it helps pay for my boys' school level next term, yes." "Good," Lyra said. "A suit will be sent to you. Dinner starts in 2 hours." He nodded. "Then I'll finish my shift fast." He left without more words. Lyra returned to her desk, but her mind stayed on the worker. He spoke to her like a normal person, not like a chief. It was strange, but not unpleasant. Time passed. The station grew busier as night cycle began. Lights outside the ring glowed blue. Ships lined up for docking. 2 hours later, the dinner hall was ready. A long table stood under soft gold lights. Alien and human foods were set in careful order. Guards stood at a distance. Daniel arrived wearing a simple dark suit. It fit well, though he looked a bit unsure in it. "You clean up well," Lyra said. He gave a small smile. "Feels like I'm wearing someone else's clothes." "Just stay calm," she said. "Follow my lead." He nodded. A message chimed in her ear. "The guests have arrived early." Lyra straightened. "Already?" "Bring them in." Large doors opened. 3 tall alien delegates entered. Their skin was pale blue, and their eyes were silver like mirrors. They wore long coats with shining threads. They bowed slightly. Lyra returned a formal nod. Daniel followed her example. One delegate stepped closer. He held a small floating device. It hummed softly as it moved near Daniel. Daniel looked at it but did not step back. The alien tilted his head. "Human male. Records show high-stress survival zones. Interesting." Lyra's voice cooled. "Is there a problem?" The alien gave a thin smile. "No problem. Only curiosity." But his silver eyes lingered on Daniel longer than polite. A quiet feeling passed through the room. Something unspoken. Something watchful. Then the delegate said, "We look forward to dinner, Chief Lyra, and to knowing more about your close bond." Lyra placed a light hand on Daniel's arm, playing the role. "Of course. Please, come." They moved to the table, but in her mind a small warning bell rang. The device that scanned Daniel had not been part of normal greeting tools, and the way the delegate smiled did not feel warm. Outside the hall, far down the station ring, a small cargo door opened for just 3 seconds. No alarm sounded. No one noticed. The night on Haven Ring had just begun, and the calm stars outside did not show the trouble slowly drifting closer. The dinner hall glowed with soft lights. and the long table was set perfectly. Alien delegates of different shapes and sizes took their seats, each with curious expressions. Daniel followed Lyra, standing beside her as she had asked. He felt a little stiff in the suit, but he kept his posture straight. Lyra noticed immediately how his calm presence seemed to balance the tension in the room. The first words were formal. The alien spoke in low, careful tones, asking about the station, trade routes, and the recent successes of Haven Ring. Daniel answered politely when called upon, his voice steady. Lyra watched him closely. There was a natural honesty in his manner. He did not exaggerate, nor did he try to impress with grand claims. He simply spoke about facts and the life they had built on the station. One delegate, a tall being with green skin and two narrow eyes on either side of its head, leaned forward. "You maintain the station yourself?" it asked Daniel. "I help where I can," he said. "I've worked on this station for 3 years. I know the lines, the engines, and the ways to keep people safe. That is enough." The alien looked at him in surprise. "For a human male, you seem capable." Daniel shrugged. "Survival teaches lessons. You work, you protect, you keep going." Lyra's lips curved slightly. He said simple things, yet they sounded strong. Some delegates whispered among themselves. Not all humans were praised like this. Daniel's quiet confidence made them reconsider old ideas. As dinner plates arrived, Lyra noticed how he watched her, making small gestures such as offering water or passing food. He did not overstep, but he did not retreat. It was a careful balance, one she had not expected him to manage so naturally. The conversation shifted. One of the delegates asked Lyra about her family. She glanced at Daniel, unsure how to answer. Daniel raised a hand slightly. "Ma'am, if it helps, I can speak," he said quietly. "We work together on the station. We respect each other's efforts. That is a kind of family." The room fell silent for a moment. The aliens blinked, or in some cases moved their sensory organs in surprise. Respect and loyalty, these words carried weight in their cultures, sometimes more than blood ties. The conversation returned to trade and negotiations, but Daniel's presence had changed the tone. The delegates listened more closely, weighed every word. They were not just seeing Lyra's leadership, they were seeing human resilience through him. Lyra felt a small thrill. She had expected him to be awkward or nervous, but Daniel had become her anchor. He was not pretending to be her partner. He was simply being steady, honest, and calm. And that honesty was stronger than any performance she could give. As the dinner continued, Lyra's wrist device chimed softly. She glanced at it. A small alert flashed. Someone had tried to access a restricted storage area on the station. The alert was subtle, but Lyra knew immediately it could mean trouble. She did not panic. Instead, she looked at Daniel. "Keep calm," she whispered. "I need to check something." Daniel nodded. He did not ask questions. His eyes scanned the room, noting the exits and movements of the delegates. He had a natural instinct for noticing small changes. Lyra realized that she had underestimated him. The meal progressed. Some delegates began to ask more personal questions. One of them, with smooth gray skin and a long, thin neck, inquired about Daniel's life. "You are a single father," it said, its tone curious. "How do you manage responsibilities and work?" Daniel leaned back slightly and answered honestly. "It is not always easy. My son is my priority. Every decision I make considers him first. Work comes second, but I never stop caring for him. That is human nature. We find ways to survive and care for the next generation." The room fell quiet again. The aliens' devices made small beeps as they recorded his words. Some of them whispered in their language, Impressed, Daniel's simple explanation carried something they could not ignore. Human strength was not only in tools or ships, but in persistence and care. Lyra felt a strange pride. She had not expected to admire a maintenance worker so much, but his words and calm demeanor showed a side of humans she rarely shared. The alert on her device grew slightly stronger. She excused herself for a moment, leaving Daniel at the table. As she moved toward the station's internal security feed, she noticed one delegate watching her too closely. Its silver eyes scanned her movements with more interest than necessary. Something was off. The security monitor revealed a small disturbance near a docking bay. A cargo container had shifted unexpectedly. On its own, it might have been an accident, but the system log suggested a subtle manipulation. Someone had tried to interfere with the station's cargo handling. Lyra's mind worked fast. She returned to the table, keeping her expression calm. "Excuse me, but I may need to attend to a small technical issue," she said to the delegates. "It will only take a moment." Daniel glanced at her. "I can stay if needed," he offered. "No," she said. "Continue your meal. I'll be back shortly." As she left, Daniel noticed the delegates' eyes on him. Their curiosity was sharper now. One of them, the one who had scanned him at the beginning, whispered something in a language he did not understand. He could feel their tension, the way they measured every move. He stayed calm. He kept his posture straight, answered politely when asked, and smiled when appropriate. His presence gave a subtle signal to the humans at the table. Trust in him, and nothing will go wrong. Lyra quickly reached the security hub. She pulled up the feeds and zoomed in on the docking bay. One figure moved fast, almost blending with the shadows. The person seemed to carry a small device, placing it near the cargo container. Her mind raced. Sabotage. The investors' representatives were unlikely to act themselves, but someone had orders. Disrupt Haven Ring, create chaos, weaken Lyra's position. She tapped her communicator. "Security teams. Check all cargo zones. Lock down docking bays until I confirm status." The station responded immediately. Lights flashed in the distant hallways as automated drones moved to monitor activity. Meanwhile, Daniel remained at the table, unaware of the exact danger but sensing the subtle tension in the room. The silver-eyed delegate kept looking at him, as if testing his reactions. When Lyra returned, she found Daniel smiling quietly at the boy hologram he had brought earlier in his pocket. His son's image shone softly. He did not flinch under pressure, nor did he act like a hero. He simply focused on what mattered most. Lyra realized something. This man, this single father, was more than a temporary partner for appearances. He had a strength she could not command from anyone else. The dinner continued. The aliens tried to maintain formal conversation, but the subtle unease grew. They could feel it too. Something unusual was happening, even if they could not name it yet. Daniel answered questions calmly, spoke of human resilience, and treated everyone with quiet respect. Lyra noticed that the investors who had arrived with doubt in their eyes now watched him with something like cautious admiration. The silver-eyed delegate moved closer to Daniel. Its device beeped quietly. It scanned him again, as if trying to understand why a simple human male could hold such calm authority. Daniel looked at it and smiled faintly. "Do you need help with that?" he asked politely. The delegate paused, taken aback. Its multiple eyes flickered. Lyra saw the surprise and smiled slightly to herself. Daniel had done something no one else could. He had made the alien curious and respectful without trying. As the dessert plates arrived, the alert on Lyra's wrist device changed again. The disturbance at the docking bay had ended, but the analysis showed a suspicious energy spike in the cargo container. The station had narrowly avoided a minor crisis. She said nothing aloud. She wanted to finish the dinner without causing alarm. Daniel noticed the slight tension in her expression and leaned closer quietly. "Everything okay?" Lyra shook her head slightly, just enough for him to see. He nodded, understanding without words. He returned his attention to the guests, keeping calm and polite. The dinner ended with formal bows and nods. The delegates left with murmurs of cautious respect. Lyra noticed that some devices recorded more than usual, scanning Daniel's words for reference. When the hall emptied, Lyra turned to Daniel. "You did well tonight," she said quietly. He smiled faintly. "I only spoke the truth. That is all any human can do." Lyra nodded. She felt relief mixed with admiration. She had asked him to pretend for a few hours, but in reality, he had led without trying. His honesty, calm, and attention to others had changed the perception of the entire table. Outside the hall, the stars were still bright, but a subtle tension lingered. Daniel had handled the first challenge with ease, but Lyra knew it was only the beginning. Someone had already tried to disturb the station. Someone would not give up so easily. And Daniel, in his simple suit and quiet confidence, had become the first line of defense in ways Lyra had never expected. The night on Haven Ring had grown more complex, and the human strength within Daniel had begun to show itself in full measure. The calm of Haven Ring did not last long. Only an hour after the delegates had left, the lights in one of the cargo rings flickered violently. Alarms began to ring softly, not loud enough to panic everyone, but enough to draw attention. Daniel was walking through a maintenance corridor, checking routine systems, when the first vibration shook the floor. He stopped, listening. The hum of the station seemed off, like a heartbeat that skipped a beat. He ran toward the source, instincts kicking in. He knew the station better than most because he had spent hours repairing, inspecting, and guiding systems. He reached the cargo ring and saw smoke curling from a section of crates. A small explosion had occurred near the central containers, but no one was hurt. Sparks flew from damaged panels. Lyra arrived shortly after, her expression controlled but sharp. "Daniel," she said, "assess the damage. How bad is it?" Daniel crouched near the smoldering crate, inspecting the wiring. "It could have destroyed the whole ring if it reached the main power line," he said. "Someone tampered with the controls. This is not an accident." Lyra's lips pressed into a thin line. "Sabotage," she said. "Do you think it is linked to the delegates?" Daniel shook his head slowly. "I don't know who, but the timing is suspicious. This requires caution." He rose and gestured for civilians and low-level workers to move back. He started guiding people to safety zones. His voice was firm but calm, giving clear instructions. People followed without panic. That was a human trait she admired. Calm leadership during chaos, Lyra observed quietly. Daniel did not need orders, yet he coordinated as if he had led armies. She realized that this simple man, the maintenance worker she had asked to pretend for a dinner, had more presence and quick thinking than many officers in her staff. Security drones scanned the area, and Lyra activated her communicator. "Track the source. Isolate the affected cargo. I do not want panic." Daniel stayed by the crates, checking the wires, careful not to touch anything dangerous. "The device here is foreign," he said. "Not standard tech from this station. Could be alien-made, disguised to look like routine machinery." Lyra frowned. "Alien-made? But the delegates left hours ago." He shook his head. "Could be a third party acting for them, or someone who wants to weaken the station. Whoever it is, they knew the layout, the timing, the lines we rely on. That is not random." The station's intercom repeated Lyra's orders. People moved smoothly. Daniel's guidance kept chaos from growing. He found a small panel beneath the containers that had been altered. Tiny wires and an unfamiliar core glowed faintly. He inspected it carefully, noting the differences. "This is a trigger," he said. "If activated fully, it could shut down life support in the ring. We need to contain it now." Lyra's mind raced. She could call in the security chief, but Daniel already had a plan forming. "What do we do?" she asked. Daniel pointed to a maintenance lift. "We can isolate the core in a sealed container and eject it into space before it activates." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Risky?" He nodded. "Yes, but we can't wait for security. It will take too long. We have minutes." She agreed silently. Daniel moved to the container, lifting panels and carefully isolating the suspicious device. Sparks threatened, but he handled it like he had done countless times. He activated the lift, and the container floated toward the eject point. Lyra watched as the device was sent into space, a bright trail disappearing into the stars. No explosion, no damage. The immediate crisis was over. Lyra turned to him. "You saved lives tonight." He shook his head. "I only did what needed to be done. Everyone has the chance to survive if they pay attention and act. That is all." The security team arrived moments later, scanning the area. They looked surprised that someone at Daniel's level had already handled the threat. "How did you?" one officer began. Daniel shrugged. "I know this station. I know the lines and the patterns. I act before it gets worse." Lyra noticed how the officers' respect for him grew immediately. Some nodded in silent approval. His actions spoke louder than titles or uniforms. They reviewed the remaining crates. Everything else was fine, but subtle clues suggested the sabotage was part of a larger plan. Someone wanted to weaken Haven Ring from within, not just by devices, but perhaps by influence, by fear, or by removing trust. Daniel's mind raced. He knew the station's hidden paths, the little-known maintenance corridors, and even old docking bays rarely used. He realized someone could have moved unnoticed, hidden among regular traffic. "We need to check the play area," Daniel said. "My son often goes there, and I know its layout. If someone wants to sabotage further, they could target places where civilians are vulnerable." Lyra frowned. "Your son?" "My child," Daniel said simply. "I want to ensure he is safe. The station has families. They must be protected." She nodded. "Lead the way." They moved quickly through corridors, lights passing over their faces. Daniel explained the emergency routines calmly as they went. Workers followed his steps, impressed by his clarity. When they reached the play area, Daniel's suspicion proved correct. A small device was hidden under a bench, glowing faintly. It was similar to the one he had sent into space, but smaller. Whoever placed it wanted to cause fear, maybe even a minor injury, not total destruction. He carefully disarmed it, his hands steady despite the danger. Lyra watched, impressed. "How do you stay so calm?" she asked. He looked at her, eyes focused. "Panic helps no one. Calm helps everyone survive. That is what I teach my son. That is what I try to do for others, too." Lyra thought about the dinner, about his calm in front of the alien delegates, about the way he had led people without authority. She realized that this man, simple as he seemed, had a strength no title could give. Once the devices were removed and security had secured the area, Lyra reviewed the logs. Subtle energy traces suggested a connection to the investor's delegation. Not direct, but possibly someone acting on their orders. She turned to Daniel. "I underestimated you. You saved lives tonight, not because of strength, but because of thinking and care." Daniel gave a faint smile. "I just do what I can. People survive when someone pays attention. That is all humans need. Care and focus. Outside the play area, the stars of Haven Ring glowed quietly. The immediate threat was over, but the pattern was clear. Someone wanted to test the station, to push it to the edge. Daniel and Lyra walked back toward the main control hub, their steps silent in the corridors. Workers were repairing minor damage, drones scanned the area, and calm was returning. Lyra considered the dinner, the delegates, and the sabotage. Daniel had not pretended to be her partner for only a social purpose. His calm leadership had become essential in a crisis. She realized a truth she had not expected. Human strength was not only in numbers or technology, but in quick thinking, care for others, and courage under pressure. Daniel had shown all of these qualities, and he had done it quietly, without seeking praise. Lyra felt a mixture of relief and admiration. The station had survived tonight because of human honesty and action, and she knew, deep inside, that this was only the beginning. A minor warning flashed on the main console. It indicated unusual activity near a restricted docking bay. The sabotage had been a test, or perhaps a warning. Whoever was behind it would not stop easily. Daniel noticed it too. Someone is watching, or planning more, he said. Lyra nodded. We will need to be ready. Daniel's expression was calm, not afraid. We will manage as always. Stay calm. Observe. Act. In the stars outside Haven Ring, nothing moved visibly, but danger hovered quietly. And Daniel, the simple father and maintenance worker, had already become the station's first line of defense. As they reached the control hub, Lyra realized that tonight had changed everything. The investor delegates might return, the saboteur might try again, but one human had proven that courage and thought could outmatch technology, politics, and fear. The calm of the station was fragile. The real challenge was only beginning. And Daniel, quiet, honest, and steady, was ready. The morning lights of Haven Ring were soft and steady, but the station carried a quiet tension. The small sabotage the night before had left its mark, even though no lives were lost. Daniel walked through the corridors, observing workers, checking systems, and quietly asking questions. He did not need orders. His instincts told him where the weak points might be. Lyra followed, silent, impressed by how naturally he moved among people. His reputation had already begun to spread among the staff. Many nodded to him or whispered thanks. It was unusual for a maintenance worker to command such respect, but Daniel earned it through calm, honest action. Do you think they will try again? Lyra asked quietly, matching her pace to his. Daniel shook his head. I do not know. Whoever did this is careful. They wanted attention, not total destruction. But we cannot assume it is over. He paused near a set of maintenance elevators. I need to check the restricted docking bay. Someone may be using it to plan further sabotage. If we know who, we can stop them before more people are in danger. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Restricted docking bay? Security should handle that. He turned to her, calm but firm. Security moves slow. They follow procedure. I can move where people won't notice. That is my advantage. I know this station better than most. If they are clever, they will use that. She considered it. Normally, she would not allow a civilian into restricted zones, but Daniel had proven himself. She nodded. Go, but stay in contact. He moved quickly, using maintenance lifts and hidden corridors. Lyra watched his steps, noting the ease of his movement. He did not rush, but he did not waste time. Every step was measured, efficient, precise. The restricted docking bay was quiet when he arrived. Shadows stretched along the walls, and crates were stacked carefully. A figure moved near one container. The person froze when Daniel stepped from the shadows, but Daniel did not show fear. "I know what you are doing," he said quietly. "Stop now, and no one will be hurt." The figure laughed softly. "And if I do not, who will stop me? You?" Daniel remained calm. "Perhaps, or perhaps reason will stop you. Violence is easy. Thinking is harder. But it works." The figure moved closer, revealing a small device hidden under a cloak. Daniel recognized the type instantly, similar to the ones sent into space and found in the play area. He studied it carefully. It could trigger a shutdown in the life support systems if activated. "You are not thinking clearly," Daniel said. "Do you understand what this could do? Families, workers, children, everyone could be at risk." The figure hesitated. Their movements slowed. Daniel stepped closer. "Humans survive because we care, not because we are the strongest, but because we think, plan, and protect others. You are forgetting that." The figure's hands trembled. Daniel's calm presence and words had an effect. The device quivered slightly as the person considered him. Why do you care?" the figure asked, voice uncertain. Daniel glanced at the small display on his wrist showing his son's hologram. "Because I must. I have a child, yes, but I also have others to protect. That is what humans do. We survive together." The figure's mask shifted slightly as if reconsidering. Daniel used the moment. He carefully reached the device and disarmed it, moving quickly but without aggression. Sparks flew, but no explosion occurred. The device was neutralized. Lyra arrived moments later, observing the scene. The figure was subdued but unharmed. Daniel's calm, honest words had stopped someone who might have caused serious damage. "You speak differently than anyone I have seen," Lyra said quietly. Daniel looked at her. "I do not speak to impress. I speak to protect. That is all." Security arrived, taking the figure into custody. Daniel explained the situation simply and clearly. His detailed knowledge of the station, his careful observation of the figure, and his calm negotiation had prevented a disaster. The security team looked impressed, even humbled. Lyra studied him, realizing something profound. This man, a simple worker and single father, had saved more than just systems and equipment. He had saved lives without seeking recognition, without using force, just through observation, thought, and honest communication. The logs from the disarmed device revealed subtle patterns, traces of alien tech and coding. Someone wanted to weaken Haven Ring's reputation, but Daniel's actions had foiled them. It was clear the attempt was part of a larger plan, possibly orchestrated by unseen forces among the investors or their associates. Daniel paused, breathing slowly. "This may be only a test," he said. "They want to see if we react, if we falter. Tonight, they will know humans can think and act calmly under pressure. That may stop some. Others may try again. But we are ready." Lyra nodded. "You have a clear mind, Daniel. You do not panic. You think first, act second. Most people cannot do that under pressure." He shook his head slightly. "It is not thinking. It is practice. Survival teaches you patterns. Observation teaches you risk. Care teaches you boundaries. Together, it is simple, but most forget it." The station slowly returned to normal. Workers resumed their tasks, drones scanned for anomalies, and calm returned to the corridors. Yet, beneath the surface, tension remained. Someone had already tried to disrupt Haven Ring, and that person, or group, would not give up easily. Daniel walked with Lyra back to the central hub. "We must check all weak points," he said. Not just the docking bays, but places where people gather, where families are, where civilians might be in danger. Sabotage targets fear as much as destruction. Lyra considered this. We can reinforce the station, but you will need help. He shook his head. I can check first. Others follow once I signal. It is safer this way. The day passed and Daniel moved through the station with careful purpose. He checked corridors, maintenance areas, civilian zones, and cargo bays. Every corner was examined. Every small detail noted. He moved with a quiet authority that made people step aside respectfully. By nightfall, he returned to his small quarters. His son's hologram flickered to life, smiling. Daniel smiled back. All safe tonight, he said. Meanwhile, Lyra observed from her office. She realized that Daniel's calm, careful, and honest approach had prevented the station from falling into chaos. He had saved the people she was responsible for, not through orders, but through understanding and action. Outside the station, stars shone quietly, indifferent to human struggles. But inside, a single father and a CEO understood something profound. Survival depended not only on strength or power, but on thinking, caring, and acting at the right moment. And the danger had not ended. Daniel knew that the ones who had tried would return. Their plan had only been partially revealed, but he also knew that humans, ordinary humans like himself, had a strange strength. Calm, focus, empathy, and courage that could meet any challenge. Lyra approached him quietly in the control hub. You will need to rest, she said. Tomorrow may bring more challenges. Daniel shook his head. Rest can wait. Observation cannot. She smiled faintly, understanding that this simple man, this single father, was more than just a worker tonight. He had become the station's quiet guardian, and as the stars outside glimmered, Daniel prepared for the next step, ready to protect the people of Haven Ring, his son, and even the station itself, from threats that had only begun to reveal themselves. The station was quiet in the early hours, but the calm was false. Daniel moved through the maintenance corridors with purpose, careful not to make noise. The previous sabotage attempts had been small tests, but now he felt that the real threat was closer. Someone knew the station well, just as he did, and they were planning something bigger. He paused at a junction, listening. A soft hum came from the restricted docking bay. That was where the first device had been planted. His instincts told him someone was still there. He slipped into the shadows, moving carefully along the walls. Every step was measured, every sound controlled. Inside the docking bay, a figure crouched near a crate, adjusting a small device. The person froze as Daniel stepped forward. I know what you are doing, he said calmly. The figure turned, revealing a face partially hidden under a hood. And what will you do about it, human? The voice asked. Daniel did not flinch. I can stop you, but violence is not necessary. Listen to me, you are making a mistake. The figure laughed softly. Mistake? You think words will stop me? I have orders. I am paid to ensure the station falters. Daniel studied the device. It was similar to the others, a small core designed to disrupt the life support systems in the station. If it activated, people in the cargo and residential rings could be trapped in failing oxygen zones. He knew he had to act carefully. You are ignoring something important, Daniel said. Humans survive because we think, we plan, we cooperate. Strength alone is not enough. I have seen you move too fast, too focused on your orders. You are blind to consequences. The figure hesitated. Daniel noticed the change in posture, the slight tremor in the hands. Why? Why do you care? The figure asked. Daniel glanced at the small hologram of his son on his wrist. Because I must. I have a child, yes, but I also have to protect others. Families, workers, children, they all deserve safety. That is what humans do. That is why I survive, why we survive. The figure's movement slowed, confusion evident in the tilt of the head. Daniel took a careful step closer. Stop now, and no one is hurt. Think about what you are doing. You are about to hurt people for orders from someone who does not care for the lives involved. That is not strength. That is weakness, disguised as power. The figure froze, clearly shaken. Daniel saw the device pulse faintly. He reached out slowly, careful not to trigger it. With steady hands, he disconnected the energy lines, neutralizing the core. Sparks flew lightly, but the device did not explode. Daniel stood back, breathing evenly. The figure lowered the hood, eyes wide, watching him carefully. How? How do you do this? Observation. Daniel said simply. Care, calm thinking. That is what humans survive with. Not strength, not weapons, not fear. We act when it matters, and we protect when we can. The figure lowered the device completely, realizing that their plan had failed without a fight. Security arrived shortly after, having tracked Daniel's movements through his communicator. The figure was detained without resistance, and the device was secured. Daniel explained everything clearly to the security team, pointing out the vulnerabilities and the potential dangers if the devices had been activated. His knowledge of the station and his quick assessment prevented what could have been a disaster. Lyra arrived at the docking bay just as Daniel finished. She looked at him amazed. "You speak differently than anyone I have ever seen," she said. Daniel shook his head. "I do not speak to impress. I speak to protect. That is all." She studied him, realizing that the man she had asked to pretend to be her partner for a dinner had become something much more. He was not acting. His calm, careful thinking had saved lives. His honesty and empathy had stopped someone who might have caused real harm. The logs from the neutralized device indicated subtle traces of alien coding. Someone wanted to weaken Haven Ring, perhaps by fear or subtle sabotage, not just by destruction. Daniel understood that this was part of a larger plan. The first attempts had been small, testing defenses, but the real attempt could come at any time. Daniel walked with Lyra back to the control hub. "We must reinforce all vulnerable areas," he said. "Not just the docking bays, but civilian areas, maintenance corridors, and places where families gather. Fear is a weapon, and we cannot allow it to spread." Lyra nodded. "We will, but you cannot do it alone." He shook his head. "I can check first. Others follow once I signal. That is safer. Security can respond faster when they have clear guidance." Throughout the day, Daniel moved through the station with calm authority. He inspected corridors, maintenance areas, and residential zones. Workers noticed him moving with quiet confidence and efficiency. He gave instructions simply, politely, and clearly. People followed without hesitation. By evening, he returned to his small quarters. His son's hologram flickered to life, smiling brightly. "All safe tonight," Daniel said. Meanwhile, Lyra reviewed reports from the security team. The sabotage attempts had been foiled, thanks to Daniel's quick action and careful observation. His calm, honest approach had prevented panic and potential disaster. Outside the station, stars shone quietly, indifferent to human struggles. But inside Haven Ring, a single father and a CEO understood an important truth. Survival was not about power or numbers. It was about careful thinking, empathy, and courage. The station's calm was fragile. The real threat had not ended. Daniel knew that those behind the attempts would return, testing the station again. But he also knew that humans had a unique strength, quiet resilience, the ability to act calmly, and the drive to protect others that no force could easily overcome. Lyra approached him in the control hub. Tomorrow may bring more challenges. You need rest. Daniel shook his head. Rest can wait. Observation cannot. I must know everything before anyone acts recklessly. She nodded, understanding that this simple man, this single father, was now more than a maintenance worker. He had become the station's quiet guardian. The stars outside Haven Ring glimmered. Inside, Daniel prepared for whatever would come next. He was ready to protect the people, the families, and the station itself. The challenges were only beginning, but his human strength, calm thinking, empathy, and courage was more than enough. The station hummed with quiet life, but there was a different energy now. Daniel walked through the main corridors, observing the repairs and upgrades after the recent sabotage attempts. Workers moved calmly, drones scanned the area, and the usual background chatter had returned. Yet the calm was earned. It had been Daniel's careful planning, steady thinking, and quiet authority that had brought order back. Lyra followed at a short distance, watching him with new respect. The man she had asked to pretend to be her partner for one evening had become so much more. He had shown courage, patience, and intelligence under pressure. She realized he had a quality few people possessed: the ability to lead without demanding power, to act without needing praise. The morning began with a briefing in the main hub. Security officers reported that all sabotage devices had been neutralized and that investigations had revealed subtle traces of outside influence. Someone had been testing the station, but the planners had underestimated the human capacity to adapt. Daniel listened carefully. Tests are meant to reveal weaknesses. We know ours now. We can secure them. But we must remain vigilant. The next move may not be obvious. Lyra nodded. You are calm, yet precise. It is unlike anyone I have ever seen in crisis. Daniel shrugged lightly. Calm is not skill. Observation and preparation are. Calm is just the effect of knowing what to do when it matters. Later, the station's board met to discuss security upgrades and public reassurance. Daniel was invited to join. The room fell silent when he entered. Some of the board members looked at him with surprise. He was a maintenance worker, a single father, and yet he now held a presence that demanded attention. He spoke clearly and simply. People trust what they see. Families, workers, and traders need to feel safe. That means reinforcing physical systems and communication. Calm and clarity prevent panic. That is more important than any alarm system. The board listened, some skeptical at first, but Daniel's straightforward reasoning could not be ignored. They realized that his experience and his thinking were more valuable than any report or statistic. After the meeting, Lyra pulled him aside. You have done more than anyone expected. You could take a high position here if you wanted. Operations, safety, leadership. You would excel. Daniel shook his head. I only do what is necessary. I am not interested in power. My focus is my son, and ensuring people survive. That is enough. She studied him, realizing something important. This man had no desire for authority, yet had more influence than many who sought it. His courage, empathy, and calm reasoning had changed the station for the better. Later that evening, the station held a small ceremony to honor those who had contributed to preventing disaster. Daniel was invited, but he did not step forward for praise. He observed quietly as others were recognized. Lyra stood beside him. You deserve recognition too, she said softly. Daniel looked at her. I did not act for recognition. I acted because people needed protection. That is all humans can do. Her eyes widened slightly. Your honesty is refreshing. powerful, rare. The station outside was quiet, with ships moving slowly along the docking lanes. Inside, Daniel walked to his small quarters where his son's hologram flickered to life. The boy smiled. "You saved the station again, didn't you?" the child asked. Daniel smiled back. "We all did, together. But yes, I made sure people were safe." The boy grinned. "You're my hero, Dad." Daniel chuckled softly. "No, kid. We survive because we care, because we act, and because we think. That is what makes humans strong. Not heroes. Just humans doing their best." Meanwhile, Lyra reviewed reports of the investors who had come to dinner. Some had been impressed by Daniel's calm presence and words about human resilience. Devices recorded his speech, analyzed tone, body language, and logic. Humans were small in number compared to other species, but Daniel's example had changed the way they viewed them. Respect had grown where doubt had been. Later, Daniel returned to the control hub with Lyra. "The threats will not end completely," he said, "but we can prepare. Observation, communication, care, and action. These are enough to protect people, even against the cleverest plans." Lyra nodded. "You have changed this station, Daniel. Not through orders, not through titles, but by being who you are. Calm, honest, and willing to protect." Daniel smiled faintly. "I only do what is right. That is all any human can do." She looked at him, speechless for a moment. In his simple honesty, she saw something she had never seen before. Strength without arrogance, leadership without demand, courage without seeking recognition. The stars outside glimmered softly, indifferent to the struggles inside the station. But inside Haven Ring, a single father, a simple man, had shown that humans, though small, were capable of great strength when guided by honesty, thought, and care. The station's systems were secure. Families were safe. Workers were calm. Investors had new respect for the humans who ran the station, and Daniel returned to his son, ready to live another day with the quiet satisfaction that ordinary humans, acting together, could face extraordinary dangers. That night, Lyra walked through the observation deck. She looked out at the stars and thought about Daniel. She realized that he had done more than act as her partner for a dinner. He had changed the station, inspired the staff, and reminded her of a truth she had forgotten. Power is not in position or fear. It is in honesty, courage, and the quiet strength of humans willing to protect what matters. Daniel returned home to his child, carrying no pride, no desire for recognition, only the knowledge that he had done his part. And in doing so, he had left a mark on Haven Ring that would not be forgotten. Humans were small in number, but they were strong in heart.